Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the zoo. The minions with me this evening are Sora.
Hello.
JenTMaxi, no longer in the gray zone.
Hello.
Traveling exhibit, Hate Camel.
Good evening.
Apprentice keeper for the evening for his second night is, of course, Johnny Hellcat.
Hello.
And as the master keeper, as it were, I'm, of course, Sanguine. How are all of you doing tonight?
Fabulous.
I'm good.
I'm doing pretty all right.
Not too bad.
That's good to hear.
I'm kind of excited because I think I realized that this is the first time I've had a chance to actually talk with you both, because every time I've hung out with you, it was on Jack streams. And that's fine, but you're not really having a conversation, you know?
Yeah.
And I have a writing thing where I type backwards. So when I answer like questions on those games, I know it's gonna fail because Jack can't read what I'm writing anyway.
See, what you need to do is you just need to answer everything with a palindrome. So doesn't matter what it is. Do things like race car and Satan sees Natasha and shit like that. Satan sees Natasha is, of course, my favorite palindrome.
Yeah, I think go ahead.
I was going to say, that's a new one for me. That's amazing. I like that one.
Yeah,
Of course, you always go with the long God, a red nugget, a fat egg under a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never really went further than race car. I was not that intellectually curious when it came to palindromes.
See, my favorite palindromes that are non-verbal palindromes are the various multiplicative palindromes that you get from anywhere from 2 ones in a row, being 11 multiplied by itself, to 9 ones in a row in the same number being multiplied by itself. Because when you have 9 places, all of the places being 1 being squared, you end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wow, Johnny, English and now math. You didn't tell me there was going to be homework, dude.
I live to educate.
But palindromes are always fun.
Yeah, palindromes, because I got mine from, that one was, it was one of the puzzles in one of the game I played, Might and Magic World of Zine.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a bunch of like monks that just speak entirely in palindromes.
Oh, cool.
And so you find all these monks, and then one of them asks you like, okay, what are we doing? Like, how are we speaking? And then I'm just like, I don't know. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then in biology, one of the we were learning genomes and DNA sequences.
Palindromic repeats.
Yeah, and one of the challenges was to whoever writes the longest palindrome gets extra credit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of waited because I'm like, I just played this part. I know exactly what to put. And I think pretty much the longest one was maybe like 3 words, I think 10 letters.
Mm-hmm.
And I came up with God, a red nugget, a fat egg under a dog. And
Nice.
everyone's like, that's not fair. And I'm like, well, I kind of knew where to get that one. So
It's all about the edge.
Yep.
They should have known where to get their own palindromes if they wanted to win.
Yeah. Exploit edges ruthlessly. Doesn't matter if you have Shot's Original Miscellany and you pull up the palindrome page of it, or if you play a game and you know palindromes from that. Exploit it.
Do it.
Mm-hmm. So,
no mercy.
anyone do anything interesting today? Have any stories that they found that pissed them off or that they really want to talk about? Anything along those lines?
I did a stupid yuppie millennial thing today.
Ooh.
Did you have avocado toast?
No, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's actually not bad.
It
Not
is
good,
very
but it's
yucky.
not
It's
bad.
slightly worse. Slightly worse than that. So had to return some shopping during my lunch break. So my coworker and I went, together because it was like it's such a beautiful sunny day. We're like, oh, we'll grab a coffee or a drink or something, and then sort of make a nice break out of lunch. And so we popped into this like bakery, like it's very hipstery kind of bakery, patisserie / coffee place / barish. I don't know. It's a hodgepodge place. And I was like, oh, this is very nice. And I look at I didn't want to eat anything. So I was like, oh, I'll get a coffee. But I mean, we have coffee at work. So I was looking at their summer drinks and I was like, oh, you know what would be really nice? They make homemade lemonade, pink lemonade. Ooh, with homemade strawberry coulis. That sounds delicious. Yeah, I'll get one of those. I didn't look at the price. I paid $6 for overly sweet, shitty lemonade.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, I'm sad. This was I knew better than this. This was a dumb mistake.
That's when you're like taking really, really tiny sips so you can savor every sip.
So when I got back to work, I have this really like 20-ounce tumbler that I usually drink water out of on my desk. So I just dumped it all in there and diluted it with a lot more water, and it was fine. But that you shouldn't have to do that to $6 lemonade. You shouldn't be drinking $6 lemonade. That's the price of like buying a couple bottles, big bottles at the store.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to make your own. But it's one of those things where it's just like, ooh, it sounds so fancy. I'm like, you're such a freaking idiot. Yeah, but other than that, it was a great day.
That's good to hear. Anyone else have any stories of the day, or, like I said, news articles? Because I did see a couple things that made me go, oh my god.
Yeah.
This is going to be delicious.
There's been a couple things going on. I don't know that I know anything in particular that you guys probably aren't going to talk about anyway, like the Lauren Chen stuff with the conservatives and if you're a porn star, you can't be a conservative if you're a porn star because you don't align with our beliefs. And it's like, actually they do. They just don't believe in all of your beliefs.
Mm-hmm. I've seen something brewing on the Twitters, but I didn't actually follow what it was, so that'll be interesting.
It's like I was just wondering how she feels about Ted Cruz now.
That was a different porn star.
Well, I know, but it's still a porn star.
Oh, they're a hive mind, Johnny?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
The other thing that's got my goat, honestly, and I know it's different from this topic, is the He-Man stuff. Like, that really pisses me off what they've done with that show. It really does. Like, if they'd been honest about it from the get-go, and why they have to make Teela into the new She-Ra, I don't understand. It's like the people who made it claim to have watched the show, and I'm like, I have doubts. Like, I haven't watched the show since I was 6, and I can tell you that you haven't paid any attention to it. Like, you didn't remember characters that exist. You downplayed them to begin with. Like, oh, we're gonna make new black characters, but just ignore the ones that already exist, like, as though that's not completely racist in itself. Like, you could have propped them up. It gave them more depth instead, but no, we're just going to, forget them. There's a lot of stuff they did in there that really pissed me off. And yeah, I was a 6-year-old kid who watched He-Man, and yeah, I watched She-Ra, and to be honest, I liked He-Man better because I thought Cringer was better than her horse. I thought her horse was demonic.
What a child logic. I love it.
So, I'm also just really disappointed that when they said that they were going to add in a new black character, it wasn't just one of the faces on many faces. That would have been beautiful, and you goddamn know it.
Oh, absolutely. That would have been hilarious.
And it's one of those things where, like, there's moments where they have really good writing. Like, I watched a review from these 2 black guys who watched it, and they said, there were moments where there's really good writing, and then there's moments where they just throw it out the wind. Like, what is it that you guys want? They didn't have a clear mission here. it's either that or Netflix has this thing where it's like you have to have all this shit in there and you better put it in, or you know, I don't get their deal. But to be quite frank, they're talking about diversity, but here's the thing: you're completely gatekeeping from the fans. You're talking about diversity, but you don't want diversity. You just want a certain group of people, or you want money. But if they're not willing to give you money, you're just like, fuck you, you're all these things. And it's like, if you actually watch the show, it was extremely diverse for the time. There was a lot of different characters in there. There was a lot of female empowerment. The family of the guy who wrote it, he was surrounded by women.
Mm-hmm.
They did nothing to research this stuff, and it really makes me feel kind of depressed for my childhood, because it's really, what did they look at me as, you know? That I was watching a bunch of racist cartoons? No, I was watching stuff that taught me to be friends with people who didn't look like me. And to be proud of who I was and being different from everybody else. No, I didn't have to look like She-Ra in the show.
Mm-hmm.
There was never that expectation.
Yeah, it is people setting out to be pissed off about certain things when they try to look at old school cartoons and go, well, this one's clearly racist because it doesn't have enough of this group. What the fuck?
I'm like, the dynamics of the 80s, all right?
Mm-hmm.
The population was different back then even. You know, on the world scale, we weren't almost up to 9 million people. I don't know where we are anymore. I actually don't know. But we weren't up there. All right? So the dynamic in North America in terms of people of color, they had more representation in that show than is accurate to North America. Mm-hmm. Flat out. Because they wanted representation. They wanted to bring people in. They wanted the Black community to know that, yes, they are welcome in the society, and that we do want them here. That we do want their input. We do want their characters. We do want them to speak to us. But we have this huge rift now for the last 6 years, and it's people who create cartoons like this who are just like ignorant of our childhood. Mm-hmm. Fuck you, Kevin Smith. I didn't love Orko, but I didn't hate him. I would never have wanted him to be killed off. And to be quite frank, if you know anything about Orko, look at anything in Japan. There's like 3 or 4 different variations of an Orko. His character was popular.
Yeah, Orko wasn't Schnarf. I didn't want him to die. Now, I wanted him to talk less, but I didn't want him to die. Schnarf just needed to be smothered.
Yes. You know,
late-term abortion, that motherfucker.
I didn't yeah, sorry for ranting on your stream. It's just, this stuff has been bothering me for the last... Since I heard about it. And yeah, I did watch the Clownfish video back 2 years ago. And I was disappointed back then because I looked at it and I was like, you have the animation that I would have liked to have seen in the new She-Ra. They didn't get that. And they fucked around with that one too. Oh, well, you know, most girls are flat-chested. And I'm like, fuck you, bitch. Most girls are all sorts of shapes at that age. We're all different shapes at that age.
I don't get the constant refrain of it's an unrealistic body standard. And I'm going, it's a girl with big tits. Are you trying to tell me that big tits are unrealistic? There's a fuck ton of women with big tits. It's not something that's ridiculously rare. I don't understand that, especially when they're looking at actual photos of models. And they go, well, that's an unrealistic representation. That's her fucking body. What the fuck do you mean it's unrealistic?
That's a real person.
You know what I really think they need to start doing? They should start taking these fat-phobic people, or these people who are on this fat-phobic train, you can't be like that. I want them to have a nice little world tour to Japan. And I'd like them to go to different towns in Japan, different cities in Japan, different islands in Japan, and walk around with that kind of bullshit. Because in Japan, yes, they have some people who are overweight, but it's not like North America.
Mm-hmm.
Or anywhere. Anywhere. Europe, Africa, China, anywhere.
Europe is getting more and more like America
I know.
when it comes to the weight.
Because fast food is designed to be easy and it's designed to be attractive, and I don't hate it. I just know to see it what it is, and it's a really hard struggle to acknowledge that something like that can only be a treat. It can't be a daily meal. It can't be a 2 times, 3 times a meal type of deal. And a lot of North Americans, and I worked in grocery stores, and I can tell you, even from a grocery store standard, a lot of people just buy the pre-made stuff because they don't have time. We are overworked in our society for very little. And I'm not saying this as a socialist. I'm saying this is, everything has gone up in price, and now they want to increase everything. So it's just
I would disagree with the people don't have time to cook. It's more a matter of how people decide to spend their time.
Yeah.
Because think about how long you spend just dicking around on your phone.
Well, there's that, and to be quite frank with you, Sanguine, and I'm going to butter you up a little bit. Not everybody's as talented at you at cooking, and that's just the truth. but even to a bare minimum.
You don't need to be all that talented to.
I get what you're saying.
Grab a potato, wing it in an oven at 400 degrees.
My mom used to freeze her dinners for us. Like she there's this lady who has a channel who does this. And it's the exact same thing my mom would do. She would pick 5 different recipes. They usually had similar ingredients, just so it would be easier for her to do. And she would make a month's worth of meals because she knew that certain times of the year she wasn't going to be around, or because her work was just demanding of her. And she knew that my dad makes things that would terrify you, Sanguine. I should, if I still had pictures of that, I'd send it to you.
Oh, no, I can just tell you about shit that my dad made. One of my dad's creations is tinned tuna fish, mayo, and bacos. Are any of you familiar with what the fuck bacos are?
I have no idea, but it sounds like some kind of fake bacon.
Like bacon
It
bits?
is a fake bacon. Okay. It is a fake bacon bake.
Oh, no. That
One
is
of
like...
the first ingredients on it is petroleum byproducts.
Oh, gross.
I could still beat you though. So there was this one year that my mom went to Ontario to visit my grandmother, and so my dad decided he was going to make refried beans, and then he decided he was going to mash some purple beets into it, and then he was going to add some rice and mash that into it, and then he put it into freezer lock bags and then froze it.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad made an omelet with pickled beets, onions, and lettuce.
Except for the lettuce, my dad would like your dad.
He's like, yeah, this is stuff your mom makes, right? And I'm like,
no.
This is stuff that the Hague considers illegal. Like,
it's like if you're lucky, you've got hot dogs and maybe steaks. Because my dad can grill. Like, he's got no problem with grilling. It's just anything else. And omelets. He can make omelets. I don't understand that. He could make something as complicated as an omelet, but
I've told you guys what got me to start learning how to cook, didn't I?
Not having to have the laxative that is baconos.
Bacos, by the way, just so that everyone has the proper mental image when I say bacos, I quickly pulled up what bacos look like. Here's a picture, and let me zoom
Oh,
in.
man, I've seen those, yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Bacon bits. Yep.
Yeah, we got those too. Yeah.
Pretty sure
Yeah,
I broke a
isn't-
tooth on one of those things as a child.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
It isn't bacon bits. Bacon bits are actual little bits of bacon that have been fried up and then they have some preservatives added to them. Bacos, I don't think have any bacon in them.
I think it's just,
I don't think
Are they
they have
vegan?
meat. I don't even think they have meat.
I think it is just petrified bacon grease. It's
Oh.
really all it is.
Like I said, I'm
Yum.
pretty sure one of the main ingredients
Cancer.
is petroleum byproducts.
Oh, yeah.
Hiya, Terry.
But yeah, so the reason why I learned how to cook was I when I was young, my mom was around, and she knew how to cook. She's a fantastic cook. Delicious food. I didn't need to know how to cook. My mom knew how to cook. Everything was good. Then 9/11 happened. Both parents got activated because both parents were military. And my grandma came down to take care of myself, my brother, and whatnot. And my grandma, fantastic goddamn cook. So again, she knew how to cook. I didn't really need to know how to cook because grandma knew how to cook. And I had amazing food because grandma knew how to cook. And then for a small block of time, my father came back, was no longer active duty, and was taking care of us. My grandma went back to where she lived. So it was a period of time where it was just my father and myself, effectively. For a month straight. Do you guys want to hear what dinner, lunch, and breakfast were?
Oh God, what was it?
Dinner was Domino's pizza.
Yep.
Breakfast was reheated Domino's pizza or cold Domino's pizza.
Oh no.
Lunch was what remained from the Domino's pizza from dinner and breakfast.
Oh, that's how you go to hate old pizza.
Exactly. I can't fucking stand like 90% of pizza now.
Yeah, that's when you have to make it yourself, and even then, you're really going with the Italian recipes, like real Italian recipes, because those are different.
Or you're dressing it up ridiculously. Like, my best friend and I, he had this amazing chicken pesto recipe.
Okay.
And we did chicken pesto pizzas.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Where it was that, a really good smoked mozzarella, handmade pizza dough, just unbelievable. Fuck yes. But yeah, for about a month straight, it was Domino's pizza, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if I wanted some variety, I could have either a bowl of Cheerios for breakfast, or I could have a bowl of grape nuts.
Oh, grape nuts.
Those were the options.
Wow.
Grape nuts weren't bad, but they're definitely not, you know,
You'll feel it later.
On the list of stuff kids want to eat.
Yeah.
I don't think
because you feel it later.
What is that, like Raisin Bran?
Yeah.
So, grape nuts here. Let me pull up grape nuts so I can show you what they are.
Yeah, they're supposed to help you with your digestive too.
It's pretty much like horse feed.
I don't think I could ever forgive my father if he stole the simple joy that is a pepperoni pizza from me.
Yeah, like I said, I can't stand most pizza now, just because breakfast, lunch, dinner, Domino's pizza.
Yeah, plus it was Domino's. You poor kid.
I can only imagine you actually making a pizza for someone and just be like, man, if you weren't for someone else, I'd just throw you across the room right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, now that I've made you, you are going in the trash.
Okay, this is a kind of shitty image of grape nuts, but surprisingly, there aren't that many images of grape nuts. Who would have ever guessed? No one decided to take a picture of something so photogenic.
Oh, it's like bran buds.
Yeah, it's
and that the berries in there are the only way you're going to get flavor.
Yeah, we've got a new brand up here that's like a quinoa.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same stuff. Like we used to have that brand too. I just haven't seen it on the shelves in a while, but we have a quinoa version. But yeah, I call that the stuff that you use to have certain kinds of poop.
Yeah, if you're going to eat grape nuts, pretty much the best way I can recommend is don't use milk, use fucking half and half, and add like 2 teaspoons to a tablespoon and a half of sugar.
or just use coffee creamer.
And make sure you get some really tender toilet paper because you're gonna feel it later. I'm sorry.
Yeah, here I just pulled up a better image of Grape Nuts on the Grape Nuts official site, so I can show.
Yay! Official.
No offense to you guys, Grape Nuts. I'm just saying that that's what it's for. Like that was what I was taught as a kid.
Yeah, this looks like this does look like older adult cereal, if you know what I mean. This prune juice. I mean, I'm sure it's tasty.
You know,
it is crunchy as hell. So it had a really nice texture if you like crunchy food.
It's actually good for other things too. Like I'm sure that you know what I mean. Like when you're baking and stuff. Like if you want to make a really decent crust and use those, it's actually pretty good for stuff like that.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But otherwise, I wouldn't use it for anything else. Like I'm not opposed to substituting for graham crackers, just because I find I'm not always a big fan with graham crackers with everything, just because of the texture. It's even like with s'mores. Like I'm sorry, people who like s'mores, but you know, if you replace the cookie with a different cookie, it's amazing.
I kind of want to try it now with like a good snickerdoodle or something.
Right, like a good cookie.
I've heard a lot of words defining cereal, but versatile was never really one of them.
No.
You would be amazed. You can actually take a and I know this sounds dumb as hell, but you can take a box of Cheerios and make a cake out of it.
So I love
Rice Krispie
cornflakes.
cakes?
Well, Rice Krispies, but the cornflakes to use as the coating on like schnitzel and stuff like that. That's my. I love it with cornflakes. It's so unhealthy, but it's
I'm actually I'm looking up some recipes, and I want to try to use the cornflake. They have a crumb type thing that they have for that, and I want to try and make that with some chicken tenderloins.
Ooh. Yeah,
and so
that'll be tasty.
It'll make like kind of a sort of like a smaller chicken nugget type thing, so that my youngest, since he's got celiacs, and he can't have because his favorite was Foster's Farms chicken nuggets, and he's like, pretty much if he could eat those breakfast, lunch, and dinner, he would. But after he got celiacs, you know, we had to cut him off of that, and he was pissed.
Poor baby.
Poor kid.
But and so I was thinking like I can make sort of like my own kind of chicken nugget for him with some sort of breading that is
try with cornmeal as well. Like not just corn flakes, but actual cornmeal. Maybe like there's some good recipes for that, because I know you can use that as a coating. It's a little bit more grainy, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's quite tasty. I like it. Or maybe make polenta, or you can find pre-made polenta in the store, but it's not. I would recommend trying to learn to make it yourself.
Panko? What about panko?
Panko's still...
Isn't that bread, though?
Yeah, panko's still bread. It's just...
Oh, okay.
Do you know how panko's made? It's really weird how panko's made.
I think you explained that before, but it's just one of those...
I think I did.
Yeah, it's one of those mental image things that, like... Yeah, I keep thinking, like, rice bread or something, but that doesn't exist.
So the way that you make panko... Actually, there are versions of rice breads. But the way that you make panko is you get 2 metal sheets. And you make a dough, you stick the dough in between the 2 metal sheets, and then you run a massive amount of current through the metal sheets so that it has to pass through the dough in order to go to the other sheet. And then go from that sheet to ground. In the process of it moving through, it only will be able to move through when the moisture content is sufficient. So it ends up effectively insanely quickly boiling all the water in the bread with electricity, making it have that weird shard texture of panko. and it's actually fairly new creation because it was first made supposedly during World War II, when Japanese soldiers had flour, they had water, they had some yeast, and they had salt. So they could make a dough, but they didn't have ovens to bake the bread. So they took a battery out of a tank and 2 plates of metal, ran the charge through the 2 plates with the dough in between, and cooked the bread that way. Ends up almost tasteless because it doesn't get a crust, but created a very hard, shard, textured bread. But for the chicken, are you planning on keeping them as kind of like chicken goujons, or are you going to be cutting them more into nugget size?
More nugget sized, so that he has, because that boy loves his ketchup.
Okay.
So yeah, pretty much. He just will soak it in there and then eat it like that.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that you can do in order to have a starch that you can use is, rather than using cornstarch, you can probably use some potato starch. So it'd just be set up a penne station, grab the chicken, toss it into the potato starch, get it coated in potato starch, move it to an egg bowl, mix it around in the egg, then put it into the what was the cereal again? It was cornflakes. Put it into the crushed up cornflakes and then fry it off after. You can try 1 coat, 2 coat, or 3 coat of that. And the coats would just be between the egg and the cornflakes. So multiple coats of the last 2 steps.
Yum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the potato starch is just to make sure that the egg adheres nicely.
Yeah, we tried. I tried making pancakes with this gluten-free flour, and when I first looked up the recipes, they were talking about xanthan gum, and I'm like, I wonder if I should actually add this to the pancakes. But I tried it without, and it turned out really good. But I'm wondering if the xanthan gum would do what I would like, make them a bit more pancake-ish rather than, because they were kind of flat.
Yeah, the xanthan gum kind of does what the gluten does.
Yeah.
So it makes it so that it's more effectively elastic, which allows it to hold the air in it to really puff up. So
sorry.
You first.
I was going to say, for pancake flours and stuff, if you have access to chestnut flours for having the gluten-free pancakes or crepes or everything, I suggest that, if just for the extra flavor in that type of flour, is fantastic.
I could see that. Yeah. That might make it tasty.
You have to kind of hunt it down, but it's good. I recommend.
Wow, that is pricey. It's showing a 1 pound bag is $12.99.
Ouch.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Well, what are there different flours from that one? Maybe there's I don't know.
Oh, there's a hell of a lot of different.
Oh yeah, there's.
Oh yeah, no, that was just one that I've tried before, but I got it from Bulk Place, so okay, never mind.
Yeah, you can. If you want a flour that will probably be fairly cheap, but has a really lovely flavor, oat flour.
As you have to make sure
it's certified gluten-free.
Yeah.
But oat flour, buckwheat flour is another good option.
Oh, buckwheat for savory, especially do savory crepes. Yeah.
If you can find it, these next 2 are kind of rarer. Amaranth and teff are 2 that are rather nice, but they're more difficult to find.
Isn't amaranth a bit gassy? Okay. That joke died? Okay.
It's the
Is this
right?
Is this a Twitch joke?
Yes,
it's
it was.
Twitch talk. Yeah, it took me a moment to go, oh god, did you make that amaranth joke? Oh god.
Nope, that joke's dead.
But yeah,
Sorry, Johnny.
Rest in peace, gassy meme. Yeah.
and then of course there's sorghum is another one that you can use for avoiding gluten.
And it's really hard with a picky eater. So it's
Mm-hmm. Like I said, if you can
have
get
a double fun.
it is guess and check with food, really.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it really kind of is. Like, I remember having, because I worked in a deli when I worked in the grocery store, and even with the deli, you have to check items for celiac. You know, like we had designated slicers for that too, and I always got kind of more frustrated with people because honestly, and I'm not accusing you, I'm accusing people who would do this kind of shit. If you know your kid has problems, or if you have problems, tell the clerk.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the clerk, because chances are good they don't know when the last time they've cleaned their slicer. We try to clean them as much as we can, but sometimes it just takes 2 seconds to be like, oh, I forgot I sliced some ham or some beef or something, and they have designated hams that are specifically for you guys, so, you know, people who need that kind of stuff. And I loved you guys because my store was so busy all the time that it was always just like, can you really give me a few seconds to just clean my slicer? Just because there are some items where you can see the food transfer. I'm like, I'm going to mess up your food if I slice it right now, because this last thing I had was like tomato basil. But yeah, it was between the celiacs and actually religious people. As much as I disagree with them on some things, anyone who gave me that opportunity to clean my slicer, I was like, thank you, because I don't like poisoning people, and I actually don't like mixing food either.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I said, teff is a good flour if you can find it. That one might be a bit more expensive, and it is absolutely harder to find. I think Bob's Red Mill has teff, and they're often found in the flour section.
That's usually our go-to is Bob's.
Yep.
I wonder how hard it is to make that kind of thing. You know, like the hazelnut flour, or like just, you know, almond flour or something like that. Like, is it?
Well, with something like almond flour, you can make it yourself. You just have to buy a really good nut grinder, and then a food processor. So you to finish off, and then you're able to make. It's just so time consuming. You really have to.
Yeah, because
it's
you have
like
to
people
dry
who
the
make
shit out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to throw it out there, just because it is for your kids. So I don't know if it's something that you're gonna do a lot.
There's quite a bit of stuff I have plans for cooking for him.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of if he's going to eat it.
Yeah.
Also, potato flour, which is different than potato starch.
Well, I do also have to take some carbs into consideration because he is diabetic as well.
Aw, your poor baby.
Oh, he got the disease lottery.
Ah.
Yeah, he's prone to ear infections, prone to pneumonia.
Oh, that was me when I was little.
He's diagnosed autistic.
The monthly ear douching and diagnosed autistic.
You should have told him that he doesn't need to be so high-reaching. You know, he has time to grow, and you know.
And he's got a mouth that's going to get us sued faster than anyone can possibly imagine.
Well, you said autistic, so yeah.
Like,
I mean, you guys
like
the shit I say.
I like it to think I have, you know, a pretty dark sense of humor, but I can filter mine. He just goes.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, this kid's gonna get us killed. Keep him away from any leftist riot. We'll call
Yeah. That's kind of the problem right now, isn't it? It's like everywhere you go, it's like eggshells everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
In like cartons of them, and I don't think they understand that that's kind of the problem when you have half the country having to walk around the other half of the country like it's not even hopscotch. I'm sorry, most people are not up for hopscotch, and you guys want everyone to play it, and you're like eggshells, so it's not doable.
Just remember that Jehovah begins with an I.
I'm like, I don't think they really want diversity, because if they really wanted diversity, they have to be prepared for the elephant in the china shop, and that's a lot of people. Just...
And that just reminded me of a couple of the things that I wanted to bring up just because, oh god, they're glorious. So, one is, did you guys see what the Senate did not terribly long ago when it comes to the draft?
Oh, they made women eligible for it too now?
Yes, the
Equality!
Senate Armed Service Committee has voted to make women eligible for the draft, which means that they would have to register for the draft. I think it still needs to get the general vote, but they've already put forward that, yeah, we're going to make it so that they are eligible. Which people are losing their fucking mind over. Because
I don't understand why. I just, I got a card in the mail that said, hey, you're registered for the draft. It's like, all right. And I went on about my business. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
I think if you were to be worried at all, it would be because of like Russia and China. But in all honesty, we're all in the same boat. So hey, good luck.
And the thing that I find particularly funny about this is I kind of predicted what would happen if this ever did happen ages ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because I said that if it's ever voted to make women eligible for the draft, the immediate next step will be that it's a feminist issue in order to get the draft completely done away with.
Mm-hmm.
And people are now chiming in saying that we need to get rid of the draft entirely. Wait, you weren't saying that a little bit ago.
Yeah, I saw that earlier today too. I was like, you only care about it because it's in the news.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, yeah, sorry, I'm going back. My brain's just trailing back to the China-Russia joke. But yeah, no, seriously. That's a little concerning. I hope they don't do that.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people now trying to say that the draft as a whole needs to be abolished, that were perfectly fine with it before this announcement came out, which... Congratulations, you're late to that party. There have been people saying that the draft is an archaic thing. There's arguments for it. There's arguments against it. An argument against it is not, well, now it affects women. That's a bad argument against it.
Oh, gosh.
I just find it hilarious that now people are, oh my god, they're eligible for the draft. Yes, it's almost like they're being treated equally.
And when was the last time the draft was even used?
Draft was used Vietnam.
Korea? Oh, Vietnam, that's right. Why I think that far back?
Which is why so many of you guys ran up here to escape.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Vietnam was the last major time that the draft was initiated.
And that worked out so well.
Yep.
I mean, you guys didn't even need to for after 9/11, because everybody was so keen to join up. You guys were so pissed off.
Yeah, I remember hearing a story from MMA fighter Tim Kennedy. He's a Green Beret. He said he went to go sign up the next day, and there was a line around the block.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Oh shit, I should have got here earlier."
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we had people up here who were willing to join you too, just because it was gross. Like.
Nobody likes seeing somebody get sucker punched.
Well, yeah, we're still your allies at the end of the day. Whether or not we agree with you on stuff, and I can't talk for most of my country because I know what they're like. But we do try to support you for the most part. That shit was so long ago, though. I did donate blood, by the way. It's probably in some warehouse in the middle of fucking nowhere, completely rotten, like dusty.
But it's just, what the fuck now that people are suddenly trying to say, well, we need to get rid of the draft. Well, why do you want... Because women are now vulnerable to it. And I'm going, okay, there's arguments for it. Because, yes, the draft was very important for World War II.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way of saying that it was not an important thing that we were able to do for World War II. It made it so that we could get the number of boots on the ground that we needed.
Yep.
But
Yeah, I mean, you're mobilizing for a world war.
Yeah.
Yep. And the thing is that the military as a whole does not want the draft to be initiated. It's somewhat important to have the ability to initiate a draft if we should ever end up in another World War-like situation. But it is not what any branch wants, because they like having a professional military. They like everyone who we send into dangerous situations being people that we kind of have a clue as to how the fuck they'll react in those dangerous situations. It makes it so that everyone knows that the person next to them is worth a fuck ton more than the person that they're going against. That's the reason why the draft hasn't really been used in goddamn ages, because the military is going, yeah, don't use it. Unless we fucking don't. No.
Bad PR.
Yeah, it's not just bad PR. It's bad for unit cohesion.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes down to it, the main thing that you need to worry about when you're talking about fielding a military is unit cohesion. You want your people that hit the ground to actually be able to do the job that they're there to do, and you want them to be able to work with everyone else. Vietnam was an absolute shit show because we had a general draft. We didn't devote enough time to training, and to make matters worse, a number of the branches, not all the branches, but a number of the branches were strong-armed into dropping their standards. Some of the branches haven't regained their standards since, effectively. Which is...
It's not great for your military.
Yeah, that's goddamn terrifying. That's the reason why we had a lot of the issues that we did in Japan, or in Vietnam, because when you start accepting people that would fail the military psych exam, yeah, you're going to end up with more fucked up people. When you start accepting people that had criminal records that would have disqualified them prior to that, yeah, you're going to have more fucked up people doing more fucked up things. When you lower the standards for physical fitness, you're going to have a lot more people die.
Well, yeah, and like mentally unstable. I mean, you look at North America or just like the West in general, and like our mental health is not good here. You know, at best you have shit that you're able to deal with, but like we have a generation of kids now who believe that whatever shit they've got is their excuse for everything in their life.
Yeah, we have effectively walking mental cases rather than people with psychological issues. When this is something that has pissed me off time and again when I hear people, for those who aren't aware, and if you aren't aware, you must be new. Welcome. I'm a Spurg. I'm diagnosed as a Spurg. I almost never use the "I'm a Spurg, so forgive me" card.
Never heard you use that. Never.
Yeah, I might go, no, I might be misreading this because social cues are not my strong suit, but, and then I'll continue on. So I might hedge my bet every now and then just to go, yeah, I'm not 100% sure I'm reading this right, but this is the way I'm reading it. And that allows people to correct me if I'm wrong, or to go, no, you're actually spot on this. We have a lot of people, though, that they use the, I have autism, please be gentle, at every opportunity that they possibly fucking can. And what's even worse is, so, you see this with other things as well. I see it happen a lot with autism and Asperger's. I see it happen with the deaf and blind as well. People saying that if we ever develop a cure, that would be genocide. These people have so identified with their disorder that they think that without the issues that their disorder causes, they would not exist. If I had the ability right now to do away with all the negative aspects of being a Spurg, and I could suddenly make eye contact without thinking that eyes are fucking weird, and I could pick up on social cues, you bet your fucking ass I would immediately go, yes, where do I sign up? What? Where does this needle go? In the arm? Okay, in the arm. It has to be in the ass? Okay, let me drop trow and I'll have you jam it in the ass. Oh, it needs to go in my fucking urethra? Give me the fucking needle, I'll do it myself. I don't give a shit what the treatment entails if it fucking works.
I mean, I might still have questions about the urethra.
That would be a bit weird if that was the case. But if it was absolutely the case that it had to go in the urethra for some fucking weird reason, okay, I guess I'm getting a urethral shot.
No,
definitely getting a second opinion first, but I mean, like, absolutely necessary. I mean,
ask for the medical degree of the doctor.
Absolutely, it's just like if they say, "Oh yeah, the injection has to go in the ass." Okay, so right buttock or left buttock? No, I'm talking. It's going straight into your prostate. Hold on a minute.
That's when you have to check.
I have a concern.
That's when you have to check to see if the office is a windowless fan.
Well, I was complaining earlier about being dyslexic. So I don't have it for numbers, actually. Like, my math is actually fine. If I got the numbers backwards, that's just because I wasn't paying attention. But when it comes to writing, it is a legit thing. Like, I remember writing papers that my mom would correct for me, and then I'd have to go back and rewrite them. And I'd come to bring them back to her. And even though I'd rewritten the whole page and I had it in front of me with all the corrections, there would be new misspellings because my hands and my brain are in different places when I write. And I would write words backwards, and that was just the thing. And it wasn't just backwards. There would just be times where words would blend with each other. It's not like I don't know about it, or I still to this day try to work with that. Like, even if I misspell in the chat, I just take my lumps, but I try again next time. And I do check my stuff. Like, I've written stuff before where I've read it over and I'm just almost in tears by the time I'm finished reading it, just because it's so messed up. So yeah, if it took me getting a piercing in my yuha or something to fix my problem, I as much as that would suck, I would do it, because it sucks not being able to write properly and have people be like, well, are you really as intelligent as you think you are? You can't even write properly. And it's like, I that doesn't necessarily mean I don't try to fix it.
But yeah, we have all these people that use their mental health as a justification for them to act in specific ways. And this is a standard that I hold myself to, and there's people that I say this to when they have issues as well. Yeah, issue that's a socialization disorder, such as autism and Asperger's, where it is probably mostly biological with some environmental aspects to it, and it affects your socialization and your ability to socialize, or whether it's something that is a more direct issue. You don't have the ability to control your disorder and just flip it on and off.
Yeah.
No one thinks that you do. No one is demanding that you do. So if you have anger issues, yeah, damn straight, you will get pissed off at things. And someone shouldn't really be able to tell you that you have no right to be pissed, because you don't really have a choice whether you're pissed or not. The thing is that you absolutely do have a choice. If you take being pissed off and you decide, I'm pissed off, I'm going to punch Bob in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Your feelings, yeah, they're yours. You figure out the way that you deal with them. The moment that you put it into action, that's when you fucked up. If you have autism or Asperger's like I do, and you miss a social cue, yeah, no one's really going to be all that pissed off at you if they know that you try to actually not do that shit. If you're just an obstreperous asshole that is completely unrepentantly so, then yeah, people are going to stop giving you the benefit of the doubt and stop thinking that, hey, yeah, I know that they have trouble picking up on that social cue. If it's the same fucking social cue time and time again, and they go, hey, when I make this face, it means that I'm feeling this way, and you still don't respond proper, you're an asshole. It isn't, oh, I'm just autistic. No, you're an asshole. You're an asshole that has autism. There's a fucking difference. You can be autistic and not an asshole, or you can be an asshole and autistic. You can also just be a fucking asshole. There's a whole world of options. Being something like that doesn't...
Why limit yourself?
Yeah, why limit yourself to just being an asshole? But you control your actions. Things can become more difficult when you have certain issues. Things can become easier when you have certain abilities. But either way, you still have a choice. That's what people will get pissed off at you for. What you choose to do. And if you fuck up and you just immediately go, I'm sorry, it's this problem that I have, and you do nothing to rectify that situation, you do nothing to try to grow from where you were, to learn from the fuck up that you just made, yeah, it isn't your disorder that's the issue. Because, yeah, I might not be able to read someone's facial expression the first time that I meet them, or even the 20th time that I meet them. If I've known them for a good long while, I can read them because I've, over time, figured out, oh, that expression, when their face does this thing, that's what this means. When their face does that thing, that's what it means. When they do, oh, okay, they suddenly start to make sense because I actually try to learn how people function. And just the number of people that, if you try to cure this, you're committing genocide, you fucking idiots. You are not your disorder. Stop making your disorder the central aspect of your fucking personality.
It's just the reality is I feel like we're raising kids to not realize that they actually have a personality. I feel like they don't realize that. You know, well, like they watch things on TV and they're like, why am I not like that?
Well, they're taught that this stuff is a personality.
Yeah.
And there's no one to tell them that it's not.
They're being taught that these superficial characteristics and these immutable characteristics are personality characteristics. They're being taught that that's what makes them who they are, which is why I've said this I don't know how many times on air, because every time it pisses me off, and the fact that people still function this way makes no goddamn sense. If, Johnny, I ask you to describe yourself for me, what would be some of the things that you would describe yourself? Who is Johnny Hellcat? Apparently, he's a very silent man.
I don't know. I wouldn't say like I wouldn't be like pointing out the whole native thing, because that's not an aspect of who I am.
If it was not done on air, you'd probably start with like, well, I do this for a living, and you might talk about your family and your hobbies and shit like that, right?
Yeah, I'm a family-oriented insurance salesman. Like,
yep. So you give me that type of information. And if you ask me, I would also tell you, well, I do this for a living, and I'm really passionate about these topics, and these are my hobbies, and this is my family situation type deal. Because that's how normal people function. That's how people with personalities, because those things actually inform you about a person's personality. It informs you what they do for a living, which what you do for a living is a big part of your life. Because a shit ton of your life is spent doing that thing. Mm-hmm. Just look at your week. How much of your waking time is spent doing a job? It has an effect. Then your family situation, because if you're very family oriented, that tells me something about your personality. If you aren't very family oriented, that tells me something about your personality. If you're currently single but you're looking for someone, that tells me something. That actually gives me information about who the fuck you are. And if you tell me your hobbies, again, that's telling me things about you.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to a good number of people nowadays, it seems like, okay, tell me about yourself. Well, I'm a white guy that looks like a giant dwarf, and I'm straight, and I have Asperger's syndrome, and that sums me up. Does that tell you fucking anything about me?
Nope.
I'm a non-binary dragon wolfkin.
Tells you absolutely fuck all, unless there's one way that it would tell you something about a person, and it is what they most complain about. If you follow the stereotype.
You know what I think? I think that every time I look at Hate Camel's avatar, it reminds me that the camels up here are fake American smokes, and that still pisses me off.
Fake American smokes?
Mm-hmm.
You have bootleg camels up there?
We sure do.
What, did you get them shipped there from North Korea or something?
No, they're just not. They're just they're kind of a low-end version of what you guys actually have. Like, it's a noticeable difference. Like, if you were to smoke a pack of ours up here and then smoke a pack of yours down there, you'd be sitting there really disappointed because the taste is totally different.
You can tell they're bootleg because the umlaut is over the A.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that America does with cigarettes what Australia does with its beers?
Yeah. And what's worse is we charge way more for them up here too. So.
Yeah, I think I did the conversion with Della one day to see how much a pack of cigarettes would cost me up there. Like in American dollars. Comparing.
Mm-hmm.
And what did he say? It was like 22 or something like that.
It depends on what you're getting. Yeah, if you get a decent stack,
the ones that he was getting, I think, were 14.
I want to say it would have came to like, it was like $16 or $18, like American, something like that.
Mhm.
Yep.
I was like, that's ridiculous.
Yep.
Even, I made a joke when I was in college. Like, I went to Daytona Beach for spring break, and I ran out of cigarettes like the second day I was there. So I had to go buy a carton, because at the time I was just buy a carton at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like $20 a pack, or $20 a carton more than they were back here in Oklahoma. It was like 60 and change or whatever. I looked at that little Cuban lady on the beach. I was like, if we had these prices back home, there would be riots in the streets, ma'am. This is highway robbery. And then I come back and they hiked the price. I was like, I should have kept my fucking mouth shut.
Yep. Yeah, it was something that we talked about was it on Thursday or was it on Friday that I ended up talking about this?
The cigarettes?
Yep.
Yeah. I think on Friday.
Yeah,
maybe.
if you were there, then it had to have been Friday.
Yeah, 'cause that's when we were looking at prices and stuff.
Yeah, the price that you mentioned, it was more expensive than New York, which is the most expensive area to buy cigarettes in the States.
And that was for a pack, just a pack, not a carton of cigarettes, but just a regular 20-pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, it was like $2 or $3 more expensive than New York.
Yeah, that's actually a thing because it's more expensive in BC than it is in even here. Because
I think we were like third most or second most. It was Newfoundland that was at like $15 a pack.
Mm-hmm.
They're the most expensive.
Do your Indians have smoke shops, or
They
is that just
do.
a thing
They
we do?
do.
Oh, okay.
They do, but honestly, you kind of have to be friends with them, and you can't go there to get them. They have to get them because they have to have the card, and if you're seen doing that, then there's a good chance they could get in trouble, and you can get in trouble.
It's like if you want the good fish, you got to know someone who will fish it for you.
That's basically it. That's not to say that I'm not friendly with the natives. It's just the last lady that I knew passed away, and she didn't go to the reserve because she wasn't really in good health. She lived in the city for really good reason. But I've just lost track of most of my native friends. It's just grew up and went different ways, and they've got friends, and I've never made friends with people because they were native. I made friends with people because they were awesome.
See, that is different than down here. Like at least here, with my tribe, they just don't pay state tax on the cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anybody can drive up to the drive-thru at the Travel Plaza and buy a carton, buy pipe tobacco, tubes to stuff your own cigarettes, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you do get a discount if you have a tribal membership card. So you don't pay the state sales tax or whatever, and you get the however much off.
Yeah,
if you have your tribal card.
My parents, they were coupon crazy, and every summer we would go to, I think, one of the reservations in Idaho, and we would pretty much buy them out of cigarettes. And I'm talking like 20 to 30 cartons, just to stock up. And it was probably maybe like $50 that they spent the entire time.
Yeah, and then the states that have the ridiculous price hikes for sales tax and all that bullshit are also the states that get the most pissed off when people smuggle cigarettes into their state. And it's just no shit. If someone can drive 15 minutes across state lines, buy cheaper cigarettes, and they're a smoker, do you think that they're going to buy them in your state? No, the fuck they aren't. They're going to drive that 15 minutes. They're going to buy the cigarettes at the other area, drive back, and continue smoking their cigarettes. And then there'll be other people that go, I could buy them from this location, and I could sell them in this location and turn a profit. And congratulations, you made a black market with your own incompetence. But people just keep on trying to do the same thing of, well, we need to increase the taxes on this. What the fuck?
Because that won't do anything.
Yep.
Just means I'll be smoking my cigarettes by candlelight. That's all.
So it's the romantic way.
You have to rub some sticks together to light it.
But yeah, it just keeps on happening time and again. And that just reminded me of one of the other things that I saw recently that made me laugh my ass off. Have you guys seen on Twitter, because the oil spill that happened, or the ocean fire rather, happened, is from the state oil / petrol product company of Mexico.
Wasn't that the one that they were saying, it's because of men, and then come to find out that the company is owned by a woman?
Yeah, it's the one that they first started saying, see, this is what capitalism does. Capitalism was able to set the fucking ocean on fire. How does that make sense? And then, it's a state-run, been nationalized for fucking ages, petrol monopoly, because it's the only game in town due to it being state-run.
I'm just sitting here feeling sympathy as an oil girl. Even if I didn't do it as my job, because I didn't, I'm not that big of a, But as an oil girl, I feel sympathy for her. Especially given that she's Mexican. I'm not shading Mexico. It's just I know that they don't necessarily have a lot of income. So the idea that them pushing their own oil or having their own oil, I'm for them doing that. I'm for them doing that. So I do have a lot of sympathy for them. But yeah, that's gonna be harsh on them, because people don't understand accidents happen.
And when you're talking about nationalized industries, you see this time and again. They aren't the best run.
No. Yeah.
The fact that, they went from, it's capitalism's fault. Oh, this is from the...
It's state capitalism's fault.
State run, and then they went, it's men's fault. Oh, it's currently run by a woman. Well, it's state capitalism. And anyone that thinks that state capitalism is socialism or communism needs to learn. I'm wondering if you guys noticed what I did when I first heard that. What was the thing that came to your mind when people first started saying that state capitalism meant that a system could not be socialist or could not be communist if it engaged in state capitalism? Was there any big problem that immediately jumped out to your mind?
It just sounded like bullshit to me straight off the bat, so...
As well it should, because it also then means that they're saying that it is absolutely impossible for any nation on Earth to be socialist or communist unless every nation on Earth, and really it's not just every nation on Earth, but it would have to be, the Earth has one nation that encompasses everyone on Earth, would be the only way that communism could ever happen, because if they have to trade with a nation that is not a socialist or communist or shit, if they just had to trade with a nation in general, technically that's now state capitalism. So according to them, it cannot be socialism or communism. They've just said that the only way that it could ever happen is if the only group in existence was one communist group.
The thing that bothers me about this, and especially with virtue signalers, because the first thing they want to do is they want to point fingers and be like, well, who's at fault? Is this person or this person? And I'm sitting here as a practical person thinking, the first thing you should be asking, what can we do to help? Mm-hmm. If you really, really have you see something tragic has happened, instead of pointing fingers, why don't you respond first? And then we can do the pointing, because here's a problem. This has happened. It's an accident. Shit happens. The first thing you should be doing is let's respond. these people are so lost on what the point is. I just don't know what else to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just drives me crazy because that argument, like I said, when you take that argument to its natural end. Oh, you just said that the system that you're advocating that we go over to can't actually be a thing unless we control the entire Earth, and then we transfer to that system. Oh, okay. So it will not work even by your estimation right now. Why should we do it? And the fact that, yeah, they just keep on trying to go that, well, it's this group's fault. Oh, it's not that. Well, it's this group. Oh, it's not that. Well, it's this. And because it's this, it isn't our fault. Is just a what the fuck. There could never be a world government. I mean, it was predicted for 2K years, but this is different. I will not say that there could never be a world government, because I think it is, to a certain degree, almost inevitable that there will be a world government at some point in time, especially once we reach a point where we have more than one planet under our belt.
Mm-hmm. Rapid travel, making it virtually non-existent to travel from one continent to the other.
Yep.
To be honest, the only thing that's really holding us back from just doing something like that now is probably the fact that we haven't encountered real aliens. You know, at least ones that we've really seen.
No, what I would
so you say we need the motivation of war and conquering things to get us into space.
Usually being fucked over is a good way to be like, maybe I should set my differences aside, you know?
Yeah, that would move things along. But really, if we think... This is something that I said a while ago on a different stream. The idea that, oh, it was just a matter of time before we stopped doing wars of conquest and before colonialism failed.
No.
No, the only thing that made it so that that is the case is what the two major world powers ended up being. Because if it hadn't been the UK and the US becoming the two major powers, the UK first that then bled into the US, and UK, and now it's effectively just the US. But if it had not been for those two nations being at the height when they were, yeah, wars of conquest would have continued, and they become much easier with modern tech than they ever were with older tech. The governing size of empire was always its ability to communicate between its farthest reaches.
Well, especially given, look at what the media could do. Could you imagine if we weren't as connected as we were with the kind of media, the kind of technology the media has? Yep. And you have your own separate little countries? People would be so easy to brainwash against their own neighbors.
Yep.
Because they were very easy to brainwash back in the day. Like, I mean, the limits of communication, you had posters everywhere. You had newspapers being printed. And yes, those newspapers were being written by people who were told what to write.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah.
And I mean, shit, think about it.
Mm-hmm.
The US has the ability to get troops anywhere in the world within 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how big of a wet dream that would have been for Rome? If Rome had the ability to move its Africa Legion to goddamn England in 24 hours?
I was going to say, like, Roman history seems pretty sticky already, so I imagine it'd be a pretty big wet dream.
Yep. Yeah. It would have been absolutely insane. And this is something that we are now capable of doing. If it hadn't been for the US going, yeah, we aren't going to do Wars of Conquest, and not only are we not going to do Wars of Conquest, but fuck anyone else who tries a War of Conquest, Wars of Conquest would not have died out.
Hey, Sanguine, I wonder, have you ever seen that like satirical documentary, CSA? It's supposed to be like if the Confederacy had won the Civil War.
Oh, I think I have, yeah.
And it's like going back and showing like the counter history of like, you know, what happened after they beat the North.
Mm-hmm.
And they go on to keep conquering, like, you know, Central and going into South America and whatnot.
Yep.
Can I be honest with you? I have to blame Japan for this, but every time I view a Roman bathhouse, I can't help seeing it as Roman soup. Because they have.
Japan?
Because Japan has this thing where you should shower first before you take a bath. Because if you just take a bath, it's kind of like you're sitting in your own filth. So
Okay.
I look at the Roman bathhouses, and I know like they were constructed differently. Like they have different ones that they've uncovered and stuff. But some of them didn't really have a very good filtering system.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't help picturing like really dirty water bathhouses with like Roman steak. And I blame Japan for that, because Japan's the one who really pointed that out to me. Like I've always known to shower before I get into a pool.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, I was told that it was because it was supposed to help you adjust to the temperature of the pool, not necessarily to wash yourself. So the idea of like pointing that out was just like, and now I look at the Romans and I'm just like, ooh, Roman soup.
Though, if I'm not mistaken, when they have uncovered various bathhouses, there were a series of baths, and one of the thoughts is that there was effectively this is the one where you actually clean, this is the one where you just enjoy.
Sorry, I do enjoy watching documentaries. It's just every once in a while I'll get that little snicker. I'm like, oh god, this one was like that. Oh no, this is a low-end bathhouse. Oh no.
Nice.
Now, the part that I remember from that CSA one was like they were showing a presidential contender who apparently, you know, it comes out that he's actually part black, like way down the line. And so I think he ended up like killing himself or trying to commit suicide, something like that.
Yeah. Like
It wasn't super funny, but it was like, huh.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you went, that might actually have been a thing. Oh, shit. But yeah, there's so many things that we take for granted looking back at history and looking at how things are that make no fucking sense. Some of them do. Like the idea that slavery, it's just a matter of time before slavery becomes effectively completely archaic and dies off entirely. Yeah, sex slavery is going to be the last bastion of slavery, because as tech becomes better and cheaper, the people that use slave labor aren't going to be able to keep up with the people that use robot labor. So it's just going to die off.
Until the robots rise up.
Well, that's why you don't make completely sentient and sapient robots. Or you do my idea of how to avoid robots from doing we should just kill people, is you don't, for instance, with a cleaning robot, you don't want a cleaning robot that desperately wants everything to be clean. You want a cleaning robot that wants desperately to clean things. So they need other people to make the messes for it to then clean. You effectively want junky cleaning robots, where they're just looking for their next fix of, can I please just clean your fucking dishes? Can you make this one dirty? Just do it for me. I just need a hit.
Hashtag defund Boston Dynamics.
You know, if Japan can...
I don't know if I want a junky Roomba.
See, if Japan can make a Gundam, I'm wondering if we can convince them to make, like, they've come up with these animes lately with these slimes, and this one had my interest because it had 2 cleaning slimes. You know, one that cleaned up like garbage, like poop and shit, and then the other one was just like for you know, bathroom, or not bathroom. It was more for like dishes and stuff.
It was disinfecting, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, can't we just have something like that? Because it's less likely to try to kill you because you're basically feeding it. It's almost like a pet, you know?
See, that's what I'm saying with the junky robot idea. You want it to rely on you for a fix.
Yeah.
You don't want it to want everything to be clean, because if a robot wants everything to be clean, yeah, it could come up with the idea of, well, if I kill the things making a mess, everything will stay clean.
Yeah,
you don't want that.
I don't need a Roomba staring at me while I eat a sandwich. Like, it's oddly uncomfortable.
Just waiting for one crumb to hit the carpet. Just.
I mean, but if you attach some like puppy dog eyes to it, or like, you know, like the Puss in Boots eyes.
Come on, I see that glob of mustard. It fell on your pinky. Just wipe it off on the couch. Just wipe it off on the couch, please, please. I need you. Just wipe it. Ah, yes. You don't want that voice coming from your Roomba?
No, I do enough drugs as it is. I don't need that kind of. No.
Yeah, you don't want a Roomba who's kind of like, you know, and no offense to Dobby, but like if you get a Roomba who's like a Dobby and all of a sudden it's got a sock and all, it's like, I'm free.
Yeah, I don't want a codependent cleaning appliances.
Like
so you don't want
like the little toaster.
You don't want the cleaning appliance to want to be free. You want it to just want to do its job.
No, but I would totally program somebody to think it was like Dobby just for the fun and keks, you know. And just, you know, once this battery dies out, it's got a little buzzer on it, so you can find it.
So yeah, I would be the one who would put in the option to make ever more fucked up. Just fucking rub it on the carpet. Just rub it on the carpet, please. Just rub it on the carpet.
You see a Roomba pulling out the credit card and just chopping it up,
Yeah.
snorting it up.
Just a shit ton of vocal options that are just progressively more, what the fuck, my Roomba's fiending right now.
Oh, that's funny. See, that's what we need.
At this point, if you just fucking kill someone, I'll clean it up for you. Just please make a mess.
we need to make technology fun again.
We need to make technology fun, and I
Make it sound like Chris Rock from New Jack City.
You guys all remember the old cartoons and shows where it was the in the future, right?
Like the Jetsons and stuff?
The Jetsons, or Disney had its series of, it wasn't Disney. Well, Disney also had its in the future series, but was it Looney Tunes did the in the future series? No, it was Hanna-Barbera did in the future. And it was, each of them had different setups. So some of them were like in the future, bioengineering effectively, where it was a bunch of different animals. And it would be shit like, currently, when the entire family gathers around for a nice big roast dinner, like for a Thanksgiving turkey or Christmas goose, something like that, it would be everyone's fighting over who gets the drumstick. Well, in the future, this will no longer be an issue because the Senta chicken, and it's a chicken with 100 legs, has just been made. And with the Senta chicken, every member of the family will be able to have that nice, juicy drumstick. And they would always end with something weird like, and dear listeners, before you go, can any of you find it in your heart to find a home for poor old Hootenanny? And it's like an owl and a goat mixed together. But they had those, and then they had like the appliances of the future, and it was the kitchen robot that was making sandwiches, and it was making sandwiches like it was shuffling and dealing cards.
Yeah, I remember the chicken. I remember that one. Yep.
Yep. And it would be those just weird but amusing and kind of like, yeah, the future's going to be fucking awesome cartoons. We need to bring back the future's going to be fucking awesome.
It's retro futurism. That's the genre. That was a fun time.
Yeah, we need to do shit like that again, where we're looking at the future with this. It's going to be fucking cool. Just watch the weird shit. It's going to be awesome.
It'll help, because right now I think a lot of people, everything about the future seems so depressing. Everyone's just sad and depressed and upset. So not only is it just cool, but it morale boost and happiness and all that fun things.
And currently, when you look at a lot of the depictions of the future, even the ones that have really cool shit, they're just absolutely cloaked in dystopian shit as well.
It'd also be nice to see something new. Instead of rehashing old genres, just do something new.
Yeah. And I'm fine if they're in fact, I would prefer if there continue to be dystopian worldviews as well. But I also just want the cool, weird, the future's going to be fucking amazing. Just wait to see the shit that we're able to do. And have those mixed in with the future can be kind of fucked up because, like, Deus Ex bullshit where megacorps control the world and just start swapping people's body parts. Yeah, that's dystopian as hell. Also have depictions where it isn't dystopian as hell, and it's just, this is making life easier. Because we need both. We need to have that idea that, yeah, the future has a fuck ton of promise, but it also has some danger. That way we actually realize that there's shit that we can do in order to make it better, and shit that we can do in order to make it worse. Rather than with everything being dystopian, it just seems like, well, we're fucked regardless.
I feel like Keeve is giving Sora a little bit of anxiety right now because
I'm just trying to scream at her to charge your phone.
Yep.
Hi, Keeve.
It's the final 11.
Oh God,
that's funny. I could feel you twitching through the mic. It was just funny.
But yeah, we need to have people that actually dream and hope, which seems so goddamn rare, and that's really fucking depressing that it seems as rare as it is.
Yeah, it really is, actually. There was, I wonder if part of it is almost a lack of innovation in invention, period. Because, we're not...
when's the last real new thing has come out? Like, everything has been based off of...
But, like, basic materials, like new polymers, cool melons. And yes, in certain fields, they're still innovating materials, for clothing, for military, for all sorts of cool things. Yeah, but you have to go digging into, scientific journals for it or magazines or something like that. But it's not in the lowest common denominator basic knowledge. And that's where it needs to hit. You want to have the most common layperson who's not going to hunt down specialized journals or websites or whatever to find out about the latest cool material out there, right? Because these were the stuff that created things, right? When plastics, for good or for bad, started coming onto the market, like things, you design things became lighter, more durable, cheaper, so suddenly people have all these molds, you make different toys, car parts, all that sort of stuff. That's all innovation, right? Like just that basic thing of getting people excited over more easily accessible materials
Well, I think
might help.
The last big thing with that was 3D printing.
Yes. Yeah.
And even there, it was a fuck ton of doomsaying when it came to 3D printing.
Everyone's gonna have a 3D printed gun.
Yep, it became
I forgot
3D
about that.
printed guns and weapons. And another really big tech that is goddamn amazing, and I will geek out about it fucking endlessly if I'm allowed. iPSCs. Induced pluripotent stem cells. All you guys know what stem cells are, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, in case anyone doesn't, stem cells are a type of cell that can become any other type of cell in your body.
They come from dead babies.
They used to come predominantly from harvested stem cells from, fertilized eggs, effectively. They came from blastospheres and blastocysts were the two major sources. But then we found out that there were adult stem cells. The problem is adult stem cells are really goddamn difficult to find and get access to. And everyone remembers back when it was big news at the time that Bush had banned stem cell research.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That was
Yeah.
about 90% horseshit that he had banned stem cell research. He did one thing when it came to stem cells, and he banned the acquisition of new embryonic stem cell lines, which meant that they couldn't get any new stem cell lines. They could continue research on the old stem cell lines, and they could continue research on any stem cell that was not an embryonic stem cell. So do you know what science fucking did? Science
Found a way.
found a way, and Jen, you were about to say something?
No, I was gonna say basically the same thing.
Okay. What science did was they went, we really want to fuck with stem cells, but we can't get embryonic stem cells. Adult stem cells are a pain in the ass to find. Can we just fucking turn a normal cell into a stem cell? And do you know what? We fucking can.
Cool.
We can turn a normal cell into a stem cell. We can
That's
take a
really
fucking
cool.
cheek cell and turn it into a stem cell.
Nice.
And do you know what's the really cool part about that? Let's say, who wants to be the person that ends up developing insulin insufficiency? So a specific type of diabetes. Which of you wants to be the example for this?
Well, since
Sure.
I got the kid, I'll take it.
Okay,
I
so
was going to
Johnny,
say, I'm flirting with pre-diabetes, but go ahead, Johnny. You take this one.
Johnny, let's say that you develop insulin insufficiency. So your body is not producing enough insulin. It's not that you're tolerant to insulin, it's just that your body isn't producing enough anymore. So you develop that. But let's say this is in the future when iPSCs are in full swing as well as bioprinting. You go in, you get diagnosed with this. So when they diagnose you, they take a single cheek swab from you. That doesn't really seem like all that much, does it, right?
Not really, no.
So they take that cheek swab from you. Then they are able to harvest a epithelial cell, just a normal skin cell from your cheek, from that swab, and they introduce the most common way of doing it are these 4 factors that they stick into the cell called the Yamazaki factors, named for the man who discovered them. So they insert the Yamazaki factors. The epithelial cell is no longer an epithelial cell. The epithelial cell is now a fucking stem cell. So what they then do is they passage it out. Passaging just means that they allow it to mature, divide, and they keep on moving it to larger and larger containers so that it has room to grow. So they passage it out a sufficient number of times that they have enough stem cells that they can then go in and say, okay, you're no longer producing sufficient insulin. And insulin is produced by the pancreas, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, it's the pancreatic islets. Well, the beta cells in the pancreatic islets. So, they decide that in order to cure you of this issue, because it's some problem with your beta cells, either you don't have enough beta cells or your beta cells are just kind of broken down and worn down, they're going to make sure that you have properly functioning beta cells. So they just do a very small amount of editing to make sure that your gene that codes for insulin production is still functional. If it is, they don't really edit anything. If it isn't, then they swap it for a good copy. So worst case scenario, this cell, this stem cell, is now 99.9 to like the nth place 9% your cell. It's identical to you. Then they start transforming those stem cells into all the cells that they need in order to just make a pancreas. They print out a new pancreas. You come in for a surgery, and you walk in to that surgery with insulin insufficiency. You walk out of that surgery completely fine. You no longer have insulin insufficiency because your beta cells in your pancreatic islets are now producing insulin in the proper quantity. We've just cured your fucking diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is, I don't have to put down the Snickers. I just have to make enough money to buy a new pancreas.
It depends. So there's several different forms of diabetes that can pop up. There's insulin insufficiency, which all type 1 diabetics are insulin insufficient.
Yeah.
Some type 2 diabetics are insulin insufficient. Some type 2 diabetics are insulin resistant. And some type 2 diabetics, they have a sufficient amount of insulin, but their insulin is malformed. And if you have insulin insufficiency or malformed insulin, this approach would be able to cure you of diabetes. 100% cure you of diabetes.
Yeah, it won't work for my brother, whose problem is also that he's kind of morbidly obese and has been for like 20 years.
Yeah, and then let's take another example. So let's say, since I used you for diabetes, Johnny, and Sora also was willing to be an example. Let's say that, Sora, you end up in a nasty fall or a car accident or something like that. And you end up with a spinal injury.
Ouch.
Currently, if you end up with a spinal injury, there's some that we can do in order to try to alleviate the issues, and we might be able to get back some of the loss of use, but we're very limited in what we can do.
Yes.
So
there's stem cell therapy already.
That's one of the things that's being tested, yes.
Yeah, in some places.
So, let's say that we are again in the future where iPSCs are fully greenlit. And this has all actually panned out. So you come in from your injury. Mm-hmm. They are able to confirm that, yes, you do have a spinal cord injury. We'll get you out of here in a week, and you'll be perfectly fine. Because what will happen is we'll take a cheek swab from you again. just like we did for Johnny and his insulin insufficiency. So we get that cheek swab. We isolate a epithelial cell, just one of your cheek cells. We stick the Yamazaki factors in. We start passaging them out. Then you go under the knife for surgery, and they find where you have the severing of the spinal cord.
Mm-hmm.
So they clip the two ends of the sever, the top part that's still connected to the rest of you, and then the bottom part that got severed, into this degradable scaffolding. And what I mean by degradable scaffolding, you are all familiar with dissolving stitches, right?
Yeah.
Use it at work.
Yep. So think kind of like dissolving stitches, how they hold for long
Yeah.
enough and then your body just processes them out. So there's currently a bit of research going into making scaffolding like that. And the scaffolding would literally be, we
That's
clip
really
two ends
cool. That
of a
is
nerve
really
in. And then we take the stem cells that we harvested, or rather the stem cell that we derived from the one epithelial cell that we harvested, and we inject that into the scaffolding. And then we just take another quick pull of the syringe for a couple differentiation factors. Your body's already producing some of them at the severed ends, but we take another draw of some more of those and we inject those into the scaffolding. Over the next couple days, those stem cells that we just injected into the scaffolding, all held in the proper location, not floating throughout the rest of your body like early stem cell research noticed would happen with stem cells. But they're all held in the actual area where they need to be in order to treat the issue. They start differentiating into all the cell types that you need in order to have that section of spinal cord. And they differentiate in the proper order, in the proper location, and boom. After a week in the hospital, you suddenly have a full, no damages spinal cord again.
That is so neat. That would be amazing. It really would be.
Yeah. And this is all shit that is currently in development. This
Now, would this be something that would help like a fully severed or
Yes.
just like slightly crushed?
This would be something that would help a fully severed. So
That's
This-
really neat.
the thing with the scaffolding, when I was in college, so we're looking back a decent chunk of time now. I graduated in 2013. The paper that I'm thinking of came out in 2011 or 2012. So about a decade ago, there was a lab that successfully regenerated 1 centimeter of sciatic nerve in a series of lab mice, using that exact approach that I just outlined.
And that was a few years ago?
That was about a decade ago.
Oh, a decade ago. Well,
Over what period of time? Does anyone like?
The
How long did it take to regrow that 1 centimeter?
course for that 1 centimeter was, I want to say, they tested it over about 4 weeks or something like that. And they were able to demonstrate that the spinal or the sciatic nerve was regenerated. They did it by several different measures. They started by watching how the footfall of the mice were working out, because once you sever the sciatic nerve, of course, you're going to have the leg that one goes to not functioning properly. So you compare that to before that was severed, and you can figure out how well that leg's working. Over the course of that time, they noticed that the steps were becoming more and more consistent to what they were prior to the severing. And then after, I think it was the entire time that they did was between 4 and 6 weeks, they then, because this is laboratory specimens and knockout mice, they killed the mice and then physically examined the sciatic nerve. And they were able to determine that, yes, the sciatic nerve had regenerated.
Wow.
Which, yeah, that's not something that happens normally. And they had 3 different groups in the experiment. So they had the experimental group, which got the scaffolding and the stem cells. They had the first control group, which got the scaffolding and the, at the time, treatment for nerve damage, which is a functionally just this cocktail of nerve growth signaling hormones. And then they had a third group, which was another type of control, that was just the scaffolding and saline.
Mm-hmm.
And they could tell a massive amount of difference between the 3 groups. With the group that was the best recovery, hands down, was the stem cell group. So this is shit that is currently being researched. And it is showing remarkable fucking work in this. That's goddamn awesome. You couple that with something like, everyone knows what 3D printing is.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a specific type of 3D printing that's known as bioprinting.
Ooh.
Bioprinting is
Like a
3D
liver.
printing with cells. And the extracellular matrix, just the structure around the cells that kind of gives it the proper shape. And we're currently developing methods of bioprinting lungs, bioprinting hearts, bioprinting insert body part here.
As a committed smoker, I'm really looking forward to those new lungs.
Yep. There's
That's the thing. How quickly will that be abused? Because you're like, oh, okay, well, I can just go to the doctor over the weekend, get these, get either something bioprinted to fix it, or put in the stem cell, and bada bing, bada boom, you're brand new.
Yep. And
Someone's gonna burn down a lab in the name of a religion.
oh yeah,
Yeah, well, that's because
pretty
somebody,
much already fucking happened.
somebody's going to use that to try to figure out how to create a furry or something, you know?
And if they do, I personally don't give a fuck as long as they don't just start stomping on the guados that they end up making in the interim.
Well, I mean,
At least come up with a humane method.
Before they ever get to like figuring out how to make a furry gen, you're gonna have dudes with like wheelbarrow penises.
I know,
Oh, yeah.
right?
So, for those who do the drinking game, drink, because I am about to mention, oh yeah, there's absolutely going to be designer genital shops, effectively.
Yeah, I kind of figured that the trans movement would go there too, probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of shit that you can do with this sort of research. Because you can use it for proper humanitarian and health issues. One example of another bit of research that is currently ongoing, everyone, of course, knows L'Oreal, the skincare company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yes.
Do any of you know about L'Oreal's new skin research?
No.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I only really know it from the commercials and stuff, but they do talk about it in the commercials.
So
I'm unaware.
L'Oreal is one of the major groups that's actually putting a fuck ton of money into research for bioprinting skin.
Mm.
And what this would allow to happen is, so I've used Johnny and I've used Sora thus far. Camel or Sora, which one of you wants to be a burn patient? Or not Sora. Camel or Jen, which one of you wants to be a burn patient?
I mean, when you put it that way. Yeah, I mean, I was cool with diabetes, but
Fine, I'll use myself for this one. Because
I'll be the burn victim. I'm just.
you'll be the burn victim? Okay.
Sure.
So,
I fell asleep with a cigarette. It happens all the time.
yep. Camel falls asleep with a cigarette, ends up touching off his bed. It starts a fire. He's able to get out, but his arm is severely burned. Currently, that would require a hell of a lot of skin grafts and a very long, painful process of debriding the burned skin, then grafting skin from various parts of your body, typically your ass, onto your arm, and doing it in patches until they get your full arm. With now one of the methods that they use in order to keep the tissue beneath viable is, have any of you heard about the fish skin transplants?
I have actually, but not in a while, but I did hear about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the methods that we use to treat burn patients, or is currently being researched into treating burn patients, because it has shown that it's able to protect the skin, or not the skin, protect the tissue beneath where the skin is supposed to be. So they'll put fish skin and allow that to be the covering. But with the L'Oreal technique, if they're able to complete the research and it gets greenlit, which they've been working on this for a while and they've shown some fantastic progress in this, it wouldn't be that. It would be, you go into the hospital, you have your horrendously burned arm, they have a couple different methods, so let's, just because I was geeking about IPSCs, let's continue with IPSCs just to show how many fucking things these things can be used for. So, you come into the hospital, severely burned arm. One of the normal things that they'll do with severe burn patients is most of them will be put into a medically sedated condition. Sometimes full medical coma, sometimes just shy of medical coma. Everyone's aware of this, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they do that. They take a cheek swab from camel there, and they harvest an epithelial cell. Yamazaki factors off to the races. They have an iPSC. So they passage out the iPSC. They get enough iPSCs. They put in the proper factors in order to make those turn into the different types of skin cells that they need. So this is now, let's say, at the 26 to 39 hour mark that they've reached this point, where they have enough cells and they have them differentiated. They then wheel Camel into surgery. They've already debrided and bandaged his arm. They take off the bandages, make sure that the tissue beneath is as clean as it possibly can be, that they were able to get all the burned, charred skin off.
I can smell it already.
Then they bring in what kind of looks like a paint gun. Only it isn't paint that they're spraying onto him. It's his own fucking skin cells.
I'm going to want at least 2 coats of that, just FYI.
And they spray down the section using this specialized program and apparatus that will spray it in the proper thickness in each area, because your skin has variable thickness in different areas. Also, the shape of your arm changes, and the shape of where the tissue that needs to be replaced changes as you go through the area of the burn tissue. So this scans the arm, starts spraying the layers of skin, reaches the bottom after good first layer, goes back and just starts building up layers of the proper skin cells in the proper order, in the proper layers, in the proper thickness. And it does this up and down his arm until by the end of this process, his arm is completely covered in skin. And then they bandage it for a little bit just to give everything time to adhere together. They properly treat it. He goes back, they keep him under for, let's say, another 24 hours, just to be on the safe side. After that 24 hours, so we're now at maybe 4 or 5 days. Hey, Camel, you just come out of the induced either medical coma or just shy of medical coma. And you remember being in pain from your burned arm. You aren't in pain. And you don't have a burned arm. Your arm is completely covered in normal skin.
I've come out from under anesthesia before, and that would be confusing.
It would be confusing, but no one would be pissed off going, I remember my arm looking like someone threw a hot dog into the embers of a fucking campfire.
Now wouldn't you still have like it was like phantom limb type of thing already? Like you're just looking at it and you're like, man, this thing still feels like it's on fire.
No, because the problem with phantom limb is it's the way that the nerves are cut off effectively doesn't cause them to stop signaling. At least most of the time, that's where the issue lies. Sometimes it's entirely psychological. Sometimes it's this physiological. The nerves were kind of sending this signal before they died, and that signal never got the okay, done reply.
How bad would it suck to be the dude that, comes out of that, the burned arm, everything, everything's working fine, but he has that psychosomatic.
That can be treated and that can be done away with, especially since he has the arm there that is sending the proper signals and knows what's happening. So it would be much easier to treat that than the person who has lost the limb or who still feels that burning sensation when they have a severely scarred arm. This would leave you with your arm at the end of this process would look just like your arm before this process, only less hair. It'd take some time for the hair to grow back.
Yep. It's that moment when you kind of wish that you could bring back Christopher Reeve so you could tell him you don't need to use the fetuses anymore.
And that's, again, shit that is currently being developed. L'Oreal is currently doing research in bioprinting skin for burn patients.
Good for them. This is exciting stuff. Hopefully,
maybe it'll lead towards monkey stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Who knows?
And another treatment that's coming down the line for spinal cord issues is we have really beautiful miniaturized chips that are able to send signals back and forth between each other, wirelessly transmitting the signal. One of the things that we're currently trying to see if we can do is if someone has a severed spinal cord, can we stick a send-receive chip on one side of the sever and a send-receive chip on the other side of the sever?
And put a full-on 5G antenna in there.
I've seen that episode of Arrow.
Yeah, just have a fucking Wi-Fi spine, effectively.
Mobile hotspot.
Yeah. That's one of the other things that they're looking into. Would it be possible to just have these send-receive chips on either end of the severed spinal cord, sending the signal across the gap. So a person that is paraplegic because
So
their
is that
spinal cord
like-
was severed.
Is that like recreating? What is it? The myelin sheath? Myelin? Is that
So
what
it
that
would-
is?
Not quite. So the myelin sheath, the best example of what would be a similarity for myelin sheath in engineering is the coating on an electrical cable.
Okay.
My
Because it-
first thought with that whole. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It keeps the signal in and keeps it nice and strong while also allowing it to jump ahead, just like the coating on an electrical cable. And you were saying?
My first thought with like the chip, for like spinal injuries and whatnot, would be
Mm-hmm.
I really don't want to get behind my medical bills and have my insurance like repo my spine.
Yeah.
Just flip a switch and turn that bitch off.
See, that's where the things like Repo, the genetic opera, and Repo Men.
You're one of
the
the first people I've actually heard say, repo the genetic opera.
Yep.
I haven't seen that in forever.
Yeah, those are dystopian views of what this sort of tech could end up being used like. But like I said, it's important to have those dystopian images so that we kind of keep in mind that, yeah, we need to be careful as to what we do with shit. But we can't let the dystopian world views take over entirely. We have to remember, but think about the fact that we would fucking cure people. And there's all kinds of insane shit. One of the other things, everyone of course knows what cancer is.
No.
One of the things that is being researched is if it would be possible to create effectively a nano detector. Everyone's heard of nano machines, right?
Mhm.
So a nano detector is a specific type of nano machine that detects specific chemicals, and you'd set the chemical when you make the detector. And the idea would be that this nano detector would detect a specific concentration of chemicals. The chemicals would be those that are released by cancer cells. So if it detects a certain concentration, that means that it's really close to the cancer cell. That makes sense?
Mhm.
Yep.
So they're trying to make these detectors that they would twin up so that the back end of the nano bot, the nanite, the nano, however the fuck you want to refer to it, is a insanely small but effective heating element. So what this would do is you would inject the person with this type of nano machine. It would move through the body, just being pushed along in the blood cells or blood vessels and all that good shit. When it got close to cancer cells, it would realize, yep, I'm close to a cancer cell, and it would turn on the heating element. The heating element would cook the cells around it and then turn back off. And the nanomachine would keep going. And then it would get near another cancer cell, heating element flips on, cooks the cancer cell, flips off, continues going.
See, now just imagine walking by a bunch of other smokers and smelling toast, like.
Yep.
Sorry. That's why I was saying about the robot chicken. Like, it's not necessarily that I was referencing you to that, but yeah, I was picturing Darth Vader like 3 weeks afterwards as moldy burnt bacon.
Yep. But yeah, it is again something really fucking cool that not many people know that we're looking into being able to do. A goddamn nanomachine that hunts down and cooks cancer.
You know, I'm also picturing that with that robot that cleans who's really, really excited to clean. So
Yeah, my coked up cleaning robot.
That's a little scary because, like, I know you can code things in, like, this is what it looks like and everything, but I can see it go rogue and just start cleaning up everything because nothing is, like, proper inside. So all the good bugs are killed, all the helpful, the immunity's gone, is fought by the little nano machines.
See, that's where it comes in how you'd program each of these little nano machines. Because if it, for example, the cancer one there's certain chemicals that are released by cancer cells that aren't really released by standard cells. So it would be checking for not just the presence of those chemicals, but it would have to reach a certain density of those chemicals around the detector in order for it to trigger. Which means that it would not trigger unless those chemicals are in a high enough concentration. And the way that those chemicals would be in a high enough concentration is it's near a cancer cell.
And I blame you, Sanguine, because I'm now picturing each and every single one of those nanobots speaking like that too.
Yep, just fiending.
Oh man, smoke one more cigarette. I need another cancer cell. I need to hit,
Smoke
man.
a cigarette. Come on. You can smoke a cigarette. Just a little bit of that death. Come on, man. You can do it for me. Do it for me.
It always turns bad in the end.
Right.
Corruption always wins.
But
Next
yeah,
thing you know, you got some
Dark
nanite whispering in your ear, just feed me, Seymour.
yep. But yeah, there's all kinds of cool shit that will become possible in the future that are there's infinite possibilities stretching before us. Tech is goddamn awesome, and people need to be hopeful of the future. It's not
Yay.
just doom and gloom. The world isn't
Things
going to
going
end
boom.
tomorrow. It's unbelievably beautiful. We just have to actually go for it. We have to try to make those things. We have to dream so that we can have the people that have the ability to make those things even think about those things. It's important that the entire society's dreaming, because when the entire society's fucking dreaming about a brighter future, we actually make it.
Well, that's just it. Like they've gone with taking, looking at the past, which I think we all know that you like the past and I like history too. Everyone likes the past, but they've turned to like a lying about it and be dwelling on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's the last thing that we can do. If you really want to honor your ancestors, regardless of where they came from, mine, yours, anybody's, the best thing you can do is to look towards the future. See what we can do with what we've got now and try to look towards the future.
Yep.
Like dream about things that you can do and then try. You might not make it, but at least try, or at least, dream about it. I do admit that was something in the 90s and the early 2000s. And I know you guys are old enough to remember this too, but even characters for games. I remember there was a thing on WoW, and my brother used to exploit this all the time, was kids couldn't create their own characters. Like if you were role-playing in a guild or something with a group, my brother was making like $25 a pop making characters for people. Just because they were too lazy to put any thought towards it.
Yep.
And that's a lot of the problem, is a lot of kids aren't taught how to dream without a computer. And I love computers, and I absolutely support kids being on the computer. But I also support like the little games that they should do.
Mm-hmm.
The things where they have to imagine things, because it's the imagination that got us the computers in the first place. They was thinking about Star Trek and being like, well, why don't we see if we can make something like that actually exist? And now they do. So you kind of have to, every once in a while, and you might have to instigate that. You might actually have to teach your kids how to play like that, but play with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really a hard thing to say, because I know a lot of people just don't. I think it's really difficult to have kids nowadays, and I respect everybody who does and still manages to find exactly the amount of time that their kids absolutely deserve. Because the time that you play with your kids is precious for them too, because they learn a lot from you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember having rock families and painting them and shit and all that kind of crap.
Yeah, and like I said, the future's going to be fucking amazing. We just need to actually put in the time and effort to make it that way.
Mm-hmm.
We need to, and I'm sick of every time that I hear someone say, why are we spending so much money on this research when there's this happen? Because the research is how we fix problems.
Mm-hmm.
You want to develop a cleaner, more efficient, more reliable energy source?
Yeah.
We have to research it. We have to dream of having it, and then we have to actually do the research in order to get it. You want to come up with a way that we can run the entire planet off a solar grid? Okay. We need to come up with ways that that could actually be possible. That doesn't just mean, oh, we're just going to slap solar panels everywhere, because solar panels aren't viable everywhere. And even in the places that they are viable, they aren't viable all the time. So you have to come up with other methods. Like, okay, we have solar panels. We need to be able to store this energy somehow. We need better batteries. How do we get better batteries? Well, we can do this. We can do that. We can do the other. Just look into shit. And
it's like I think this was a rumor. I don't know if I got this from you or this is just random shit I found on the internet, because it's probably random shit I found on the internet. But something about somebody thinking they've had the ability to make antimatter. And that's one of those crazy power sources that is zone for me. But yeah, that stuff, I agree with you. I'm just saying.
mm-hmm.
Plus, they always make it look so pretty in the movies, Except for when it goes boom.
Hey, Sanguine, you know how earlier you asked about any articles that may have...
Yes, I just saw the one that you popped in back chat. Do you want me to share screen for it?
I just found it. Yeah, I was scrolling and I saw that.
Okay, I'll share screen, and do you want to be the reader?
Yeah, I suppose I can go ahead and start.
Okay, so just to start at the title first.
The military's HIV policies are discriminatory and behind the times. HIV-positive people are still barred from enlisting. If diagnosed afterwards, their careers often suffer. And it starts off with a dude from Oklahoma, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Nicholas Harrison joined the Army in 2000 when he was 23. After a few years, he left active duty to go to college, hoping to become an Army lawyer. He earned his BA, then a law degree, while a reservist in the Oklahoma National Guard. In 2013, after tours with the Army in Afghanistan and Kuwait, he was offered his dream job, a position in the Judge Advocate General Corps for the D.C. National Guard. But there was a catch. Harrison had been diagnosed with HIV in 2012, which meant he was now, under the military's long-standing medical regulations, ineligible to become commissioned as an officer, a prerequisite to accepting the position. When I interviewed him last October, he estimated that he'd lost out on roughly $50,000 since 2014, comparing what he would have earned as an officer in the JAG Corps with what he currently earns as a reservist. Whenever I'm called up, I'm brought in to do more menial tasks like armory cleanup, he told me. But my real skill set is in managing programs and analyzing legislation. Harrison, who rose to the rank of sergeant, is just one of many service members and prospective members whose lives have been upended by the military's outdated approach to HIV. Recruits who test positive are barred from enlisting, even if they're otherwise healthy and have only trace amounts of the virus in their blood. Service members who test positive for the first time after they've enlisted face a labyrinth of a set of regulations that can make it difficult for them to serve as officers, hold certain jobs, and deploy to combat zones. The military also takes an active interest in the sex lives of its members living with HIV, some 1,200 according to an estimate by an outside group. Once diagnosed, they must routinely sign a document known as a safe sex order, which requires them, among other things, to verbally inform all sexual partners, military or civilian, of their HIV status before engaging in sexual activity, and to use condoms or other proper methods to prevent the transfer of bodily fluids during sex. Failure to follow these rules can result in criminal penalties under the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
As it fucking should, because if you
Yeah,
give someone HIV, it's a death sentence.
I feel like I'm channeling like every military person that I know who's mostly from the U.S. Actually, they're all from the U.S. What am I talking about? But when you become a military person in the U.S., you basically sign over your body to the U.S. So the last thing that they want is you to use your body as a weapon against other bodies that is their property. Legally speaking, that's what you agreed to. So yeah, they are going to be inquiring into your sex life. And to be quite frank, you should be telling your sex partner when you have sexual diseases.
Yeah, not everywhere is California. Knowingly spreading AIDS is still a felony in most states, just not in California, because California is fucking insane.
I really don't understand the type of people who have such an issue with that, because to be quite frank, you'd be amazed at the amount of people who will try to do something with you. They just want to know so that they can do it safely.
Yep.
For their own sake, they just want to know so that they can do it safely.
It's just, I think it's for anyone who knows they have something that can be communicable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And who fails to mention, I think, are some of the lowest of the low. I'm sorry.
I do.
It's a
I
harsh
agree.
opinion, and don't have a lot of them, but that for me is the big line, because it's not, if it would only affect you for the rest of your life and nobody else, then that's one thing, but to potentially, as Sanguine said, give someone a death sentence,
Mm-hmm.
And like the part that stood out,
death sentence.
Mm-hmm.
The part that stood out to me was like, talking about deploying to combat and stuff. Like, can you imagine being a medic, getting called up to an IED blast and it's like having to think, like, okay, is this dude going to give me the high five if I accidentally get, some of his blood on me?
Yep.
Yes, exactly. Like, do I have, you're in the middle of a war zone. Oh, wait, I don't have my 10,000 pieces of different equipment that helps to protect me from actually putting my body on the other person's body to heal them, right? Like, what the hell? But the person's dead by then. But, okay, well, proper PPE, proper, breathing mask, proper this,
Mm-hmm.
Just see every medic and corpsman go into every call with, a full mop suit on.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case, man, just in case. But I have to imagine that it's not just HIV that this policy would be, it would be other communicable diseases as well, like, hepatitis or something like that, right? I imagine military service, that's the one place where you actually do want discrimination, in my opinion.
It would be all of the incurables would be categorized under the same policy. I'm willing to bet all the incurables.
Yeah, that's no.
And I hadn't got through the entire article yet. I think I got to that point where they it's talked about combat, and I think maybe like one paragraph further. I think I got to this part where we're at right here before I was like, okay, I'm gonna just go ahead and put this in chat.
Yep.
Yeah. If you want to keep going, you can. I think we all got to that point where we're like, no, wait, we got to interrupt this.
What the fuck?
But I just imagine that they're sitting there as like. They're pointing out HIV specifically because that generally affects one demographic larger than any others, and they're probably going to try and make it a gay discrimination thing. Mm-hmm. Whereas, would you write the same article if it was Hep C? Would you be committed, this much time and effort to
that's a death sentence too. That is a slow killer, Hep C.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that is passed down in total, can be passed to you in innocuous ways.
And I don't think they would waste as much ink for that as they're doing here.
I get that it's not fair that living with HIV shouldn't shut down your life, but at the same time, it's like every other thing that people have to deal with their life. You just have to deal with it.
And I kind of wish that some of my high school buddies and stuff that were, some of them got out and they didn't come back home. They spread out around the country. But some of those guys I went to school with since kindergarten, I'd love to pick their brain, because I remember when like the Obama it was Obama administration went ahead and finally got rid of the whole gays not being able to serve openly in the military, right?
Yep.
Like one of my buddies that actually he was coming back home. He was back home from a deployment at that time, and I was asking him, I was like, dude, I never served. What do you think? You're the one that actually has to deal with this. Is it a problem or no? He's like, as long as they're doing their job, I don't give a fuck who they're fucking.
Yeah.
I was like, fair enough. There you go. That's all I need to hear.
Yeah.
And that's what it was like for everyone that I knew that was in the military. It was we don't give a shit who they're fucking. We just don't want everyone talking about who they're fucking constantly.
Yeah, that was the thing. Is like, he just looked at me, like, can he do his job? Is he trying to fuck me? Then I don't care. No.
Nope.
That's all it really boiled down to. But I would love to hear their take on this. Is like, so what do you think about the HIV?
And people think that it's a gay disease. Well, okay, it's more likely to be contracted by gay men than by any other group. The second most likely are heterosexual women.
Yep.
The least likely to are lesbians and heterosexual men. There's a reason for this. You see, when you're the one being penetrated, the chance of a tear is much greater than when you're the one penetrating. And if there's a tear and the person has HIV, suddenly it's able to get into your bloodstream. If there's no tear, it isn't able to get into your bloodstream as easily. So that reduces the chance. The reason why it's the greatest quantity in gay men is because they're the people that are most likely to be doing the penetrating and the being penetrated, which means that they get it from being penetrated, they give it by penetrating. And it's a smaller population, so it spreads more readily in that population.
And a lot of the times it spreads more readily because the other person isn't willing to be honest.
Yep.
I did scroll down a little further, but since it's talking about like 1987, this next paragraph starts. But since then, medical advancements have transformed HIV from a deadly disease to a manageable chronic condition. Yeah, because that's what I want my soldiers and Marines to deal with when they're in a fucking FOB in Afghanistan, or I want them dealing with a manageable chronic condition. I want a corporal that has Crohn's disease as well. I mean, are we fucking kidding?
And
We
don't
should have
forget
the
lepers.
IBS battalion.
Though, again, just because we were just talking about cool shit that might be possible in the future, are you guys familiar that there's a specific mutation that was caused by the Black Death that has been shown to impart effective immunity to 9 out of the 12 strains of HIV?
No.
Yeah, there's certain villages in England and a number of other places that demonstrate this one really weird mutation that we think dates back to the Black Death.
Okay.
Where
Will
it's
someone please think of the lepers?
effectively a different formation of the T cell, which gets rid of the structure that HIV uses in order to glom onto and attack the T cell. It shapes it in a different fashion, so it isn't able to glom on. And yeah, it's been shown to impart a high degree of resistance to straight-up immunity to 9 out of the 12 strains of HIV. At least it was 12 strains when I read this. I'm not sure if there's more strains now. But with a bit of gene mod and some IPSC fun, yeah, it might be possible at some point to be able to cure 9 out of 12 strains of HIV.
Use a plague to fight a plague, because sometimes modern problems require medieval solutions.
Yeah, grab this one gene for that structure of the T cell, modify an iPSC so it contains that gene for T cells, differentiate into the proper cell lines, effectively or multipotent. So pluripotent means that it can differentiate into every, multipotent means that it can differentiate into a selection of the cells in the body. So the cells that create all your blood cells are multipotent cells. So take a cheek swab, turn it into an iPSC, stick in this gene, then differentiate it into multipotent blood-producing cells, implant those in a person, and potentially cure them of 9 out of 12 versions of HIV. The future's fucking awesome if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And continue on. Just wanted to share that real quick.
While you have a pause, I am going to have to unfortunately wish you all a good night.
Oh shit, it is that time. It's well past that time.
It's vastly past that.
I've been struggling for the last half hour.
It was a good article though. Like it certainly got us heated enough for a little last wing there.
I completely lost track of time. It is time for us to go around for parting words. So Sora, since you want to dip out, you can go first, and then we'll go around to everyone else.
Thank you. Just wishing everyone a very good night, and look to the future to be controlled by nanobots. Grey goo is real, people.
But will it be absolutely fiending for whatever task it wanted to do?
It must. It will.
Okay.
Good night. Thank you.
Have a good one, Sora.
Bye, Sora.
Bye.
See ya.
Jen, do you want to go next?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on, Johnny. It was really fun to be on with you, and I'm glad I got a chance to finally really have a conversation. Because, like I said, Jack streams are fun, but they're not really conversation.
Not entirely, no.
No.
And then, Camel, do you want to go next?
I got nothing, man. Just after that article and sitting here talking about all the science stuff, I'm glad somebody here is optimistic.
We are all 5% more intelligent now than we were before the stream started.
Johnny, do you want to say some parting words?
I will go with the immortal words of George Carlin. Meow means wolf and cat.
Nice. And I'll leave off with my standard. If you're passionate about something, make sure that you devour it. Don't let it devour you. And then I'll turn over to Johnny again.
And I suppose with that, I can say the zoo is closed. Have a good night.
Have a good night, all.
Have a good night, all.
Bye, everybody.
I promise next time I'll have at least one new South Park avatar.